quote, restoring the will of the people. I think this is important, Sarah, because here is the opposition
low key, it is true. I think Trump just wants to run Venezuela himself.
For the opposition,
like he's doing the same thing that he did with like the Gaza peace plan, where out of nowhere he just added a clause where he would be in charge of the Gaza, the new Gaza Foundation or whatever, and it's like, and everyone was like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Wait, what do you mean? What is this? NBC New York.com? All right, let's see. Let's check it. Let's check it.
Terrorism charges following
my sources are telling me Mayor
Mamdani
will be saving
right now.
Maduro.
This is Chopper 4 live over Stewart Air National Guard Base in.
Why are they doing it? Wait, why are they doing it in New York? Because it's the Southern District of New York that does all the high-profile international cases.
Opened. We're watching this on Chopper 4. And agents just went on to the airplane. I saw FBI, DEA agents entering that airplane before
what
Maduro
can
and his
Mamdani
wife
do? Nothing.
Will be
What do you
transferred to the
mean?
Metropolitan
We're joking.
Detention
He's the mayor
in Brooklyn. We have Terry Monahan on the phone for you. He is our former NYPD Chief of Department, a News 4 contributor. Terry, thank you for being with us. We're watching this unfold right now live from these images on Chopper 4. Walk us through what's happening next. I saw DEA, I saw FBI going onto this plane. What's going to happen in these next few hours?
So right now, the federal agencies are talking to him. They're getting ready to transport him from Stewart Base into New York. U.S. Marshals should have the ultimate custody of him right now. They're the ones who transport prisoners. He'll be taken off of that plane, and he will be put on a chopper to be transported into the New York area, at which point, once he lands in New York, he will be taken over to the special Southern District Courthouse over on Pearl Street, where he will be processed as any other prisoner would be at this point in time. He will be fingerprinted, photographed. He will go in front of a judge where they will unseal his indictment, at which point the judge will make a determination that he needs to be sent to the Metropolitan Detention Center. He will be transported out of there and quickly taken to the detention center. I am sure all the transports are going to be highly protected. The NYPD's role in this would be to lend support to the federal authorities who have him in custody. I'm sure emergency services will be on the scene when he lands in New York.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Terry. I want to pause you here because we want to stay with us here. We're going to take a moment, pause, and let our viewers who are watching on our main channel join us.
Live from News 4 New York, this is a special report.
This is a special report from News 4 New York. I'm Rana Novini. Right now, we are watching the arrival of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife to New York, here to face narco charges following their capture by the United States. Take a live look. This is Chopper 4 live over Stewart Air National Guard Base. This is in Orange County, New York, about 60, 70 miles outside of Midtown Manhattan, where they have just arrived by plane. They will next be transferred to the Metropolitan Detention Center of Brooklyn. We want to bring in on the phone former NYPD Chief of Department and News 4 contributor Terry Monahan. Terry, thank you for being with us. We have been speaking about this moment. Terry, we're watching DEA agents. You said U.S. Marshals, FBI entering the plane here. We're watching live on Chopper 4. Walk us through what's going to happen next in the next few hours here in New York.
As he walks through, obviously he's going to be taken off. He's in custody. He will be transported via helicopter into the New York area. Once he gets there, I'm sure there will be heavy security, emergency service, the NYPD lending support to the federal authorities who have him in custody, making sure there's a safe transport from wherever he lands the helicopter in New York till he gets to the Southern District Courthouse on Pearl Street. Once he gets to Pearl Street, he will be processed like any other prisoner that walks through those doors. He will be fingerprinted. He will be photographed. He will go in front of a judge where the charges against him, the indictment will be unsealed, and he will face those charges in front of a judge, at which point I'm sure the judge is going to remand him over to the Metropolitan Detention Center over in Brooklyn. At that point, again, he will be transported under guard from the U.S. Marshals, federal authorities, and the NYPD, emergency service units, and I'm sure others from Intel, will make sure that there's a safe route, and he will be quickly transported from that courthouse, where he will be lodged within the Metropolitan Detention Center, where a lot of other famous individuals seem to be lodged at this point in time.
Right. We have Sean Diddy Combs there. We have Luigi Mangione there. Obviously, a high security facility prepared for something like this. Walk us through the preparations the NYPD and other federal agents are doing right now in New York City to prepare for all of these transfer points. It seems to be quite a few transfer points.
The judge has the funniest thing, funniest opportunity, the funniest thing, vacate the charge and order Maduro's return to Venezuela. Yeah, ain't no way, big dog. But yeah, I mean, one can dream, one can hope.
It's from the NYPD. Intel has worked closely with the federal authorities, with U.S. Marshals, the DEA, the FBI, to secure the area. I'm sure that area has been completely frozen off at this point in time, where the helicopter can land safely. There will be no one within a close distance of him. He will be put into a vehicle that I am sure is going to be bulletproof, heavy armored vehicle with heavy armored vehicles from both the federal authority and the NYPD Emergency Services Unit. All be on the ground there. It'll be a caravan, a very large caravan that will transport him into the garages over at Pearl Street, where then he will be brought up to be processed.
And then after he's processed there, he will head to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. Obviously, you mentioned there's other high-profile inmates at that facility. What do you imagine? Where would he be in the ranking of, high security? Talk to us about the security measures that would be in place there at the facility.
Obviously, at the facility, he's going to be one of the highest security.
I seriously despise both the USA and the American people, including these shadows. Everything is an entertainment for you guys. Go out. You guys have insane accessibility. Use them for a good cause. The global population has had enough of the complicity of the American population regarding the crimes and horrors that their capitalistic country imposed on other sovereign nations. You need to do better, guys. All right, buddy. Yeah. What kind of have you done recently? Like, what kind of Fed posting is this shit, dude?
He gets to face justice here in the court system. The guards, I am sure, going to have extra guards assigned.
What if they grab Maduro's body double? Yeah, that's what happened.
And his lodging goes without incident. It's something they've done before. Like I said, Pablo Escobar, that same sort of high-level drug trafficker that there was a lot of fear about when he went into that facility, and the guards over at MDC were able to secure him without an issue.
Bro drafted that tweet on the drafted that post on the flight back from Venezuela. Yeah, he's in the plane right now. He's like, come on, comrades, it's time for armed revolution now.
Nicolas Maduro and his wife have just been brought to New York. They have landed here on U.S. soil. We're waiting to see if they walk out of that plane. We have Chief Investigative Reporter Jonathan Dienst joining us now. Jonathan, walk us through how we got to this point. What has happened up to this point?
Well, overnight, there was that military action where U.S. troops using aviation and troops on the ground went in and, according to U.S. officials, caught.
I like that the third worldist attitude here is to just do decentralized, like as though that is going to accomplish any agenda here, okay? Love when third worlders will unironically be like, yeah, organizing, awareness, looking at like what the average American's attitude is. Just do it now, stupid. Okay, dude. Surely this will overthrow the America empire, dude. You got it. Yeah, just topple the government, stupid. Just throw a Molotov at a military base or something, and then magically, I don't know, step 3 is magic dissolution of America. It's awesome.
He is expected to be loaded with his wife onto a helicopter and sent here to New York.
The goal is to weaken the U.S. empire, you agent.
Before he and
Dude,
his wife.
if you think, first of all, if you think instances such as that, decentralized acts of violence such as that, was so effective in bringing about socialist revolution, why the did America use that as a part of their Gladio operations to literally create instability in countries like Italy? If it was so successful, why was it the Americans using stay-behind networks and to present themselves as like socialists doing exactly the kind of decentralized violence that you think is going to successfully implement revolution. And then instead, it turned into unlimited control by way of NATO. If that kind of adventurism was successful in fomenting revolution, why was it that the American government was actually making it seem like that was happening in an effort to bring about control? Like, sure, it's good in movies and stuff, and it's fun to watch it, but you're out of your mind if you think that this is how anything works.
Like this.
I think what's unprecedented is the nature that the U.S. military was used in, as the president and others at that press conference earlier today said that they had used the military to go into a foreign country to arrest the head of state there and bring him back, that the military was used in what they said was an assist mode to enforce an arrest versus what critics say that this has been a regime change effort by the Trump administration. President Trump announced that he will see to it that the U.S. for now will be running Venezuela. Exactly how that will be carried out remains to be seen and is causing quite a bit of controversy on Capitol Hill as, again, the former President Maduro is on that plane, and we are awaiting his escort down those steps formally into U.S. custody here at Stewart Air Base in upstate New York.
Talk to us about their first court appearance, or what we expect to be their first court appearance. You're hearing probably Monday?
Possibly Monday. We are waiting once this processing gets done.
There is a higher likelihood of undermining American empire by going to supposed liberal democracies in Europe and trying to, by way of, especially because there's like better organizing capabilities there, stronger labor unions there, even though they're also liberal capitalist countries, but by literally identifying the stress points and trying to demand that their politicians slowly but surely move away from being vassal states, being servile vassal states to American empire, you have a better chance of putting a dent in American hegemony that way than you do by demanding that, like, the Treatlerites with all the basically do an armed revolution all of a sudden out of nowhere when there is no class consciousness to begin with amongst most of the Americans. You do realize that while there's 52,000 people in here, there's 76,000 people.
They should have given him a red carpet. They should have.
Yeah, based and nutting over how fucking awesome this this action was, right? Like, I just want to give you guys a brief snapshot just to help you arrive at like a frame of reference about where Americans broadly are at. Okay, just so you understand. Most people are looking at I mean, there are plenty of people who are looking at the Maduro situation and thinking it's like a criminal enterprise. It's like totally fucking ridiculous and all this stuff. But there's always plenty of fucking dumb fucks that will celebrate shit like this. Does Trump being so open about this being oil right in the beginning of the media coverage have a significant impact on the public perception? I think so. I think it's actually part of the it's part of why like a lot of liberals are coming up with takes that I'm actually shocked by, where they're going, well, he's saying the quiet part out loud. Obviously, this is ridiculous. It's very clearly not for nothing but oil. And it's also a narrative that Americans are used to. It's a narrative that Americans have heard before, right? They've heard it with the failed global war on terror. And at the time, it was much more difficult to present a counter argument against the American global war on terror being simply for oil and for nothing else, because even the Republicans and the liberals alike were consistently presenting this as a democracy operation, as a way to create democracy, right? Now the cover story is not even there. They're just very openly stating their desires. They're very openly stating that it's actually not for democracy. A tremendous instability that will have reverberations felt across the entire continent, and certainly will have a negative impact on Americans as well. If you don't care about like the humanity of the Venezuelans, you should probably care about the impact that it will have in America. But basically, you know, They don't want to see that. They don't want to see that at all. They just want to go, yeah, based. And plenty of people want that kind of commentary. That's the reality. So you understand, like, a lot of these guys are just pure reactionary.
Indictment under this administration with additional charges and additional allegations. And they are going to eventually bring the president and his wife off this plane.
Why are you assuming what Asmongold's chat opinions are? Okay, has Asmongold actually presented any serious criticism towards this unjustifiable and outright illegal criminal action from the Trump administration? Or has he been going based over and over again? I'm sure there's plenty of people who go over there and watch what he has to say as well. I'm sure they can fill us in. I don't have to watch a Why are we talking about Asmongold? There's more to the world and political commentary than him. Every now and then I will briefly bring this up, considering that he is, the largest political content creator on this platform with, once again, now 78,000 people watching. After pretending he never supported Trump, Asmongold jumps back on the Trump train to back regime change in Venezuela. Asmongold used to be against foreign intervention. Now he accuses Hasan Piker of mental gymnastics for opposing it, though Hasan's position is consistent. Asmongold's analysis is pure nonsense. He claims that the Venezuela is a cartel government, but they have no cartel connections and are not a significant exporter of drugs. He claims Venezuela is an existential threat to America, even though Venezuela has never threatened the United States. He claims Trump's bombing of Iran is a great success, which wiped out Iran's nuclear program and changed the geography of the place to the point that you couldn't even see the building. This one is especially stupid. There was never, ever a building to see at Fordow. The facility is underground. The geography didn't change at all, but the bombs left a couple holes in the ground. And according to U.S. intelligence, the strike failed. Iran's nuclear program is intact. Only now they've kicked out the International Atomic Energy Agency and don't allow inspections. Their stockpile of enriched uranium, which was preemptively moved out of Fort Howe, is now unaccounted for. He claims Iran did nothing in response. In reality, not only did Iran shower Israel with missiles, but they bombed America's military base in Qatar. The Iranian strike destroyed a critical communications array on the base. Additionally, Iran was preparing to mine the Strait of Hormuz, through which a third of the world's oil supply travels. This could have caused a global economic collapse. Finally, Asmongold thinks bombing Iran and kidnapping Maduro has ended both conflicts. In reality, the U.S. and Israel are already threatening to resume war with Iran because of their first failed attempt, and nobody has any idea what will happen in Venezuela. The same government is still in power. It's only Maduro that's gone now.
Nobody that has the capability that we have. When I watched that war in Russia.
You have more active users in your chat, 44,000, than Asmongold right now, 43,000. His view count is slightly lower than yours. Yeah, I mean, botted or not, it doesn't matter, okay? At the end of the day, that's still a sizable amount of people that are watching him, like sizable amount of real people that are watching him. You need to understand that. And that's actually how the botting stuff works anyway, because like most people just like click on the top profile. That's the problem with botting in general.
These are people like, it's like that guy, right? The guy was like mainly joking around.
Asmongold used to pretend he was against regime change and foreign intervention. He was a no new wars, we have problems here guy. Now he supports occupying Venezuela to take their oil and calls those who oppose it un-American, unpatriotic, and pro-dictatorship. Iraq 2.0. You have more bots. That's so funny. I like that people say that kind of stuff because you can literally see, like, there's no perfect way to analyze whether someone is botted or not, but the reality of the matter is, you can still tell when someone has enough active users in their chat.
Fucking around about how, like, I don't care about Russia, Ukraine, or whatever. But, like, that essence is accurate. I think that's the way that a lot of people feel, is that they don't give a fuck about any of these countries because they can't afford food. They can't afford rent, right? And so when they see that we are signing up, we're basically writing a blank check to a foreign country to help them fight off Russia, this is going to rub a lot of Americans the wrong way, because Americans want the American government to operate in their best interest. And I understand that you can maybe make an argument that like foreign, diplomacy and foreign intervention has like a long-term positive impact, but that argument doesn't work on a person who can't afford their rent. It just simply does not work on. A quick victory lap is all well and good. Now we have to contend with the extended occupation, like Trump said we'll have to do. It could cost hundreds of billions of dollars. All we get is oil for the oil barons. That's
sick. Someone, okay. I mean, I don't agree with the whole kidnapping and Maduro thing, but we shouldn't do an extended occupation. It's just oil for the oil barons. That's a good take. It's correct. It's the correct take. I'm glad that someone in that community is bringing this up.
Sure, maybe it
Let's see what his defense will be on this one.
costs a lot of money, and it depends on how much we're doing and what we get out of it. You're right. Yeah, we're going to have to wait and see how that evolves. I think that's just common sense.
So this is Nicolas Maduro, and right now online you're probably seeing a lot of people saying, I stand with Venezuela. Some of them are even saying that they're standing with this guy and they're against his illegal kidnapping. And the question that should be asked to all of these people is, what exactly are you standing with and standing for? Nicolas Maduro is not...
I can take this approach in a million different directions, but I think the best approach here, the one that Americans do understand, is I don't want my tax dollars going to benefit Exxon and Chevron. Okay? That's it. If you don't care about the life and livelihood of Venezuelans, right, then you should at the very least do the America First thing. And the America First thing in this circumstance is non-interventionism in Venezuela. Venezuela does not present an ever-present danger to the United States of America. Venezuela's never threatened the United States of America. Venezuela is just there. As a matter of fact, in spite of Venezuela never really seriously threatening the United States of America, that'd be ridiculous. They have no power here, right? We are the United States of America. We're the most powerful nation on the fucking planet. What a laughable notion this is. But in spite of the lack of threat that Venezuela has ever actually shown the United States of America, we have endlessly tried to destabilize their economy, endlessly tried to over and over and over again. And the big part of the reason why we're doing that is because Venezuela actually nationalizes oil production in the same way that Norway was able to nationalize their entire extraction industries, not just oil, but their forest service as well. Having said that, that was unacceptable for our foreign capital, and we wanted more control over their oil, something that Donald Trump has actually personally admitted to. As a matter of fact, he's said it over and over again. He keeps saying it. We want the oil. It's my oil. I will take that oil. Now, if you were to ask me, why should I be in support of this or why I'm against this, there are a million different reasons why. But the most pro-American reason, I would say, is because who does this benefit? Well, who this benefits is, as a matter of fact, just the oil barons and nobody else. This doesn't actually trickle down any sort of wealth to the average American citizen. It doesn't do anything for the average Americans at all. As a matter of fact, it's actually an allocation of resources to permanent war for no fucking reason, as opposed to spending that money on ourselves, as opposed to fixing our broken infrastructure, funding our schools, funding healthcare, and numerous other initiatives. And instead of doing that, we are basically subsidizing the for-profit oil and gas giants here. Now, I will finish the Asmongold clip in a little bit, but before I do that, Maduro's getting off the plane. Let's take a look at what they're saying.
Whether you would back that in any way, the president says he's going to spend billions of dollars to do this for a time. What does that mean to you in Congress? And will Congress step forward in some way? Does it have the leverage to do anything about all of this that has happened?
Well, I think
if I want to listen to intelligent discussions and analysis, I listen to you. Occasionally I watch Asman, but more for a comedy take, as I think he either makes up facts or just selects the most inflammatory ideas to get views, keep up the good work. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't think that Asmongold is actually just making up facts or arriving at the most inflammatory conclusions for views. They think he's actually offering sound analysis.
The country of Venezuela, and what we know is that there is a power vacuum that's already been created. We've heard from the vice president, who President Trump says has been sworn in as president, but he's basically turned over one authority.
I will be honest, as a former Asman viewer, the flip-flopping was always troubling, but I just sort of dealt with it because I liked him. He's funny, entertaining, etc. This was before the scales fell from my eyes. I imagine many of his viewers are experiencing a similar amount of cope. I think he's able to bring in a new steady flow of viewers by just constantly pumping the dial up on the reactionary takes. So it doesn't even matter. Bro, is this a bit? Talk about the news? I mean, there's not really much. We're just waiting for fucking Maduro to come out.
Necessary right now. He said, we want the oil. He said, we're going to address drug trafficking. He said, we want to keep criminals out of the United States. But none of that he keeps changing the explanation for why this is so critical at a time when we have a lot of.
But the
needs at
legitimate
home
leader invited Trump in. What about invasion by invitation? Wait, what? No, that's not the case.
We have millions of people who have just lost their health insurance, and the president is focused on something that's happening thousands of miles away from the United States.
I do want to lastly ask you about what we're hearing out of Venezuela from Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez. The New York Times reporting now that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, said he was reserving judgment on her comments. She said that she has demanded the United States.
This helps because it shuts down the drug and criminal operations that affect everyday Americans. That's just copium, brother. Not only did they lie to you, but they didn't even lie to you that hard. I guess you were willing.
The United States, and now Marco Rubio is saying, "Look, we're going to make decisions based on."
You basically were willing to entertain that. That's not what's going on here. This is not a serious narco trafficking hub at all, and there's no evidence whatsoever that Maduro was doing some significant narco trafficking, especially to the United States of America. And not only that, but how do you match that up with the fact that Donald Trump literally last week pardoned the previous, yes, Asmongold plus 30K, yes, he's botting, okay, have fun. I hope that makes you feel better. I hope that makes you feel smarter about the takes that you're getting from him. I don't really care about this. As I was saying, last week, Donald Trump pardoned the Honduran president for trafficking metric tons of cocaine into the United States of America. If you think that he's actually sincere about combating drugs that are actually being trafficked by heads of state, he probably wouldn't have done that, right? But it doesn't necessarily matter because there's no evidence for this, and that other incident was actually was actually prosecuted successfully, and the person was convicted, and yet Donald Trump pardoned him because he doesn't give a fuck about narco trafficking at all. It's also not the best way to deal with narco trafficking anyway. Like the way to stop drug trafficking into the United States, or the way to combat opioid overdoses, as the Biden administration did, was through mass availability of Narcan, safe injection sites and things like that, things that Republicans objectively hate, and not like continuing the silly war on drugs or the war on terror/drugs now.
Everyone wants to know more about what the plan is, although the president lay out some of the plan, saying the United States will now run Venezuela for a time. Give us some sense of what you're hearing, if you're getting any updates on this as you cover the administration during this time.
No, and the president was remarkably vague about what exactly he meant when he said that the U.S. was going to run Venezuela going forward. We heard so much from the briefers today about what went into this operation, the months and months of planning that was.
I agree the situation is messed up, but stating that there's no evidence is just stating something you don't know. Really? They might make up some evidence later down the line. But yes, in relation to the narco-terrorism charge, reminded that there's no mention of the Venezuelan government or Nicolas Maduro in the DEA's 2025 drug assessment report. As a matter of fact, the only time the DEA has ever brought up Venezuela in previous reports as a narco-trafficking hub was to basically say that Venezuela is not a significant narco-trafficking hub at all. So yeah, no, I do actually have evidence. And it's not even that crazy because this administration is very incompetent. They didn't even fake it. This is actually one of the major pieces of information that I kept hammering over and over again as we surrounded the waterline of Venezuela, the coastline of Venezuela, and they kept pushing this idea that they were blowing up narco traffickers over and over again. The reality was, even back then, we knew that there was no evidence whatsoever from any of the official organs of the government and any of the official agencies that actually are tasked with combating drug trafficking, that there was any significant drug trafficking into the United States from Venezuela. So that's the reality. But one must ask the question why you instantly thought, actually, there's probably no truth to this. From Trump's own 2025 DEA National Drug Threat Assessment, Venezuela does not appear once in the report in the fentanyl section, and briefly appears only to highlight Trendaragua as a low-level street traffickers who specialize in human trafficking. Trendaragua is also a prison gang with no real connection to the Maduro administration either. We can go into detail on that one as well. The Trump administration, as a matter of fact, utilized a completely made-up, totally separate criminal element that has never actually existed. There's no evidence for its existence, called Cartel of the Sun. Cartel of the Sun has never been in operation. It was a totally made up thing that the administration put together. Not even the Trump administration, former administrations had. And they were like, this is so silly that, this is so silly that we're not even going to use this as a point of propaganda to justify intervention in Venezuela. And the reality is they're still not really using it. They basically keep repeating over and over again, this is for oil, this is for oil. The drug thing is just for, I would say that the drug argument is for the dumbest Americans, the biggest of the stupids that surround us, right? Like it's almost like a separate filter for either demonstrating your loyalty to Donald Trump or to just showcase how fucking unimaginably stupid you are, because they haven't really tried to present this drug argument that much. They haven't shown any evidence for it. They just keep saying it every now and then, but they are far more open about their ambition when it comes to extracting all the oil, right? This is for oil. This is for oil. We want the oil. This is my oil. And yet there are still who are stupid enough to believe that this is actually for drugs.
The DOJ has brought against him, and what will happen in the next moments as they take him down from this plane?
Well, he's facing
but fear
charges
not.
of narcotics.
For the hogs that believe in the drug narrative, there's an even dumber narrative out there. And that dumber narrative is that this is for democracy. This is somehow to give liberty, to offer liberty to the Venezuelan population. Because the Trump administration has not even fucking said that this is for liberty at all. And yet liberals seemingly are adopting that position despite all evidence pointing to the exact opposite.
The Venezuelan DEA, their narcotics enforcement federal agency, and the head of a drug cartel, basically to make sure that he would have free passage for his drug shipments. He is charged with receiving payments of up to $100,000 per plane load that flew into and out of Venezuela from the Colombian drug cartels run by people like El Chapo, and then through Mexico for cocaine distribution into the United States, and dealing with the Mexican drug cartels. He is charged with allegedly providing drug traffickers with diplomatic passports so that they could pass through Venezuelan ports and other ports under diplomatic cover so that their bags and possessions could not and would not be searched. And then there are shocking charges beyond the simply outrageous charges that that President Maduro and his wife arranged for the kidnapping of drug traffickers who either were behind in payments in bribe money or refused to pay because they were paying other people. So when you go through this 25
so when they were arresting and prosecuting drug traffickers, they were actually doing it because they were like, you're not drug trafficking hard enough. Continue drug trafficking for us harder, please. That's what was going on. That makes sense.
In her own right, Celia was a government official who held a number of posts over the years, including a congressional post, other influential jobs where
I'm sure they'll inevitably come up with some fucking fake evidence, right? You can't hold this up in a court of law. You need to build something in the case.
I'm sorry.
You know, I'm sure they'll have some complete fucking bullshit
through Venezuela, from Colombia.
You have to.
Venezuela.
They can't be that incompetent, right? I don't think even this administration is that incompetent. I suspect that at a certain point, even an incompetent administration such as this one will find something to point to. Israeli-style CGI video incoming. True.
Facility in New York City where they're going to be booked. And the process of booking someone, as actually President Trump learned himself, for a major criminal or a minor criminal is the same. You know, they're going to have a mugshot facing forward, then facing sideways. They're going to be fingerprinted. They're going to give various biometrics and, you know, fill out the forms, and then be taken to jail awaiting the arraignment, which will likely be on Monday. But what is not routine, even though they'll go through the same routine as any other pair of prisoners.
Yeah, I told you this is old.
How they were arrested. This is a process where the U.S. brings.
Okay, this is so fucking boring. They're just like describing how the arrest works. In 2005, Hugo Chavez explained how the U.S. would use bogus narco designation to justify toppling Venezuela. He was told they're going to end up accusing you of being a drug trafficker, you directly, Chavez. They're going to implement the Noriega formula. 20 years later, the U.S. is accused of successor of running a drug cartel, parked a massive armada offshore, and threatens to start another regime change war over so-called narco-terrorism. So the thing about this is that's why I said the whole like cartel of the sun narratives actually came out against Chavez initially, and then they just like shelved it. They were like, there's probably better ways to attack Venezuela. And Trump tried to, in a half-hearted way, claim that was the reason why he was doing this. You need to open this for stream. Billionaire, answer to drug war is legalization. Billionaire New York developer Donald Trump said Friday that legalizing drugs is the only way to win the war against what he considers one of America's most serious problems. Oh, there's movement happening? Oh, they're moving?
To tell, given the lighting conditions. But it does appear that they are about to bring him from the doorway of the government airplane there on the ground.
Abi, talk to a Venezuelan. It would be good to see our opinion.
Now, is there a helicopter waiting for him?
Isn't the situation similar to Panama 1989? Oh, I didn't know that Maduro was a CIA asset.
I don't think he's going to have to wait long. If it's not right
Shit,
there,
my bad, chatter.
It's not far. And you can
Hey,
see
you know what's actually a closer comparison than Panama? You know what's actually a closer comparison? Iraq.
We're not sure.
Perhaps it's a comparison that you don't want to see, and unfortunately you will recognize eventually.
Jail garb.
Now, in terms... no, go ahead.
And the irony, of course, is that like the fucking Maduro, while bad, is not even as bad as Saddam was.
Tried to perhaps photograph or document the moment that Maduro stepped from the plane and is being taken in the clutches of American
So it's not
law
even a
enforcement
question.
down the steps, now in federal custody after a dramatic and, as the military called it, audacious overnight operation involving more than 150 aircraft taking off simultaneously from 20 different bases, helicopters flying at no more than 100 feet in order to extract Maduro and his wife from their hiding spot in the presidential compound in Caracas.
Aaron, what happens tonight when he gets on that helicopter and he's brought to Manhattan? What's the next step?
He'll be processed as a criminal defendant, and that means in all likelihood a photograph, a mugshot, will be taken. We may not see it. They are typically not released in the federal system. Also means fingerprints and any other brief medical screenings that need to be done. If there's medication that he takes or needs, that could be arranged for him as well. And then it's another short ride to jail where a similar procedure could begin again. But it appears now that Nicolas Maduro, under the cover of dusk and now dark, has been taken from the plane, escorted down the steps by American law enforcement, largely with the DEA. And we can tell you, Ike, the DEA administrator, Terry Cole, made the trip from Washington to be there on the tarmac to personally place Maduro under formal arrest now that he's on American soil.
All right, let's bring in former Caracas chief of station for the CIA.
In general, we know why Megaphonics. We now know why Megaphonics hasn't been here.
Us a little bit of
yeah,
color
Megaphonics was actually Madurophonics, brother. It turns out Megaphonics is actually Nicolas Maduro. Yeah, that's why he hasn't been in here. He was like, "Oh, it's me and my wife are going on a trip. That's why I can't actually watch the stream." Turns out the trip was to a federal prison in New York.
What exactly is going on at this moment?
Well, I think what we're watching is a process and procedure playing out. They're not going to...
Madurophonics, dude. All right, what's the CNN legal analyst
There's
saying?
an important concept in federal prosecution called venue. And what that means is you have to charge a case in the right federal district out of the 94 federal districts in the United States.
I'm still mind blown that our president successfully kidnapped the president of another country and no other force has done anything to combat it in any meaningful way. Yeah, that's just kind of how it is now. I don't know. I mean, he also did it without like any popular support whatsoever, which is even crazy. Like out of no, like Venezuela just came out of nowhere. It wasn't like a big American, like outside of like American foreign adversaries, like it's never been like one of the major ones. You know what I mean? One day he just overnight decided we're sending the ships out there. They started blowing shit up. And then he turned around and was like, this is my oil and I'm kidnapping you. It's pretty wild. Like no false flags, no nothing. We used to be a country. Our intelligence community used to do things, okay? They used to at least try to do false flags, you know? Our CIA has fallen off, but I guess maybe they don't even need to fall off. They can just do things and people don't really offer any pushback.
Remarkable moment where we're seeing him walking on U.S. soil flanked by more than a dozen federal agents. This is moments ago. I know it is very dark, hard to see, but eventually you will start to see it lighten up just a bit, and you'll see most people surrounding him are wearing black clothing, but he is not. He is wearing something that is lighter, a gray color, or it looks like gray, potentially light blue, but similar to what we saw in the pictures that were sent out by the administration. You are seeing him there flanked by so many agents and taking steps very slowly as they take him to the next
I genuinely
position.
don't know what the fuck China's doing, brother. I know that
back with us to give us
all the China dick riders will turn around and be like, Latin America needs to save itself. Why are you demanding that China save Latin America? And it's like, that's not even the point. The point is like, I don't know. I feel like they have a pretty solid approach overall in terms of long-term resilience, in terms of like their long-term initiatives. Having said that, however, I feel like this is just a straight up fuck you to China. They did this literally while the Chinese special envoy was in Caracas.
In U.S. policy here.
No question. Let's talk about the ripple.
Yeah, the foreign ministry condemned this action. What the fuck does that mean? They condemn every action. Who cares? That's nothing.
So the first one, the most obvious one, is in Venezuela. Who leads the country now? Who runs the country? How does the U.S. run it, if the president is true to his word here? Does that involve military forces on the ground, a long-term political engagement with that country to set it on its way to elections the president seems to be referencing here? That's an enormous task. Then go out from there, because there is a direct connection between Venezuela and Cuba, because Cuba depends in large part on Venezuelan oil money to run itself. Is Cuba the next target? In what way? Just economic pressure or military pressure as well? There's a whole host of U.S. forces in the Caribbean now quite close to Cuba as well. We know that the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has an enormous interest there. Is that potentially a next target? Then you emanate further out from there to how do Russia and China, both of whom have direct interests in Venezuela, Russia in particular from a security standpoint. There have been Russian forces on the ground there in the past, but also direct financial and economic interests there given oil ties. How do they react? Do they attempt to stand in the way of this going forward? Could they cede an opposition to, let's say, U.S. forces are on the ground to disrupt the aftermath of this? It's possible. There's precedent for that. But also then how do they read the U.S. approach to the other countries where the U.S., Russia, and China are coming into conflict? Ukraine, Taiwan potentially. Do they read this as the U.S. being less interested in those conflicts, therefore perhaps more amenable to Russian control of or progress in Ukraine or Chinese threats to Taiwan? You know, those concentric circles of the ripples, Sarah Seidner, go out quite far from Venezuela and, of course, what we're watching right here in Newburgh, New York. And goodness, I was writing down on a piece of paper here a rough list of other U.S. operations to remove the leaders of other countries. Put Iraq there, right? That was messy, to say the least. Panama worked out. It was relatively, short. Minimal cost, but a much smaller country. Grenada, again, got to go back to the 80s here. Much more.
Dude, Grenada? Are you fucking kidding me? Oh, my God. Okay. Dude, it's so funny that every liberal writer right now is just going, la, 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 I can't hear you. Trump will be like, it's for oil, it's for oil. Every liberal writer is like, here's why this is actually a very reasonable and just military operation, albeit a little bit messy, okay? Not sure what's difficult to understand about this. Controls a key resource about geopolitical power. Venezuela has the largest oil reserves on Earth, and the U.S. control of it, and Russia and China being iced out is about power projection. is not about short-term U.S. energy needs. They keep going. Quite funny that during Iraq, when the U.S. was still a massive net oil importer, it was at pains to say it wasn't about oil. Now it's a net exporter. An abundant global oil supply isn't obviously in U.S. interest. The government says it is actually about oil. I don't understand why these guys keep saying this, okay? Like, there's no such thing as too much oil. Why are we acting like there's a point where people will say, oh, God, I hate having a monopoly. Well, it's not even a monopoly, but like I hate having more ownership over oil extraction around the globe. That's not a thing. Excuse me, sir. Why aren't you abiding by normal market conditions? What the fuck? It's very convenient that Trump keeps making this abundantly clear. Nevertheless, our media meddling class keeps spinning on his behalf. It's just, why are you propagandizing against the narrative that the president is setting?
Ability of the entire region.
Now, in a speech earlier, Venezuela's Vice President Delcy Rodriguez demanded the immediate release of Maduro and his wife and said Venezuela has a, quote, duty to safeguard its sovereignty that has been savagely attacked, and they are ready to defend themselves. Let's bring in ABC News Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katersi with me here in New York. Aaron, Maduro is in the U.S., so what happens next?
Nicolas Maduro touched down a short while ago, like about 15 or so hours after U.S. Special Forces exfiltrated him from the presidential compound in Caracas so that he could face federal drug charges here in New York. A 4-count, 25-page indictment charges him with narco-terrorism conspiracy and also names his wife, who's in custody along with him, and his son, who does not appear to be in custody, along with 3 other Venezuelan officials. Maduro descended that staircase at Stewart Air National Guard Base in Newburgh, New York, in the company of the DEA, and is now on his way to Manhattan for formal processing as a criminal defendant before he spends the night in jail, at least one night. We expect that his first court appearance in a U.S. courtroom could occur as soon as Monday, Ike.
Yeah, stunning images here that are coming out of Newburgh, New York. What more do we know about how this operation was carried out?
This was, to listen to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, an audacious operation carried out under the cover of night. It was dark and it was deadly, according to Donald Trump. 150-plus aircraft simultaneously took off from 20 different bases, the military said. Helicopters flew no more than Delta Force troops into the presidential compound at about 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time. 2.5 hours later, Nicolas Maduro, the now ousted president of Venezuela, was on the USS Iwo Jima in the custody of the United States. And President Trump celebrated what he called this incredible and flawless operation. We know that U.S. forces took fire during the entire time, Ike. There were a couple of minor injuries, but we're told for the most part all U.S. troops are going to be okay. And once the operation ended, it was clear that Venezuela was free from the clutches of dictatorship, but in very short order seemed to be in this sort of neo-colonialism, as President Trump announced the United States would run the country for a period of time until a new suitable government is established. And he didn't quite explain how all that's going to work.
Right. I believe we have live pictures right now from Stewart International Guard Base. They were just on your screen moments ago. You're seeing a lot of law enforcement. There we go. A lot of law enforcement presence at that base, obviously getting ready to transport Maduro. Aaron, I want to talk to you again. Once he gets to Manhattan and he starts to get processed, what does that look like moving forward?
That looks like fingerprints, which are no longer dipped in ink and put on a piece of paper. It's an electronic process by and large now. And also a photograph, a mugshot is going to be taken of Nicolas Maduro. For the United States, this is a long time coming. Maduro was first indicted here in New York, in the Southern District of New York in Manhattan in 2020 on narco-terrorism conspiracy charges. And the updated indictment expands the timeline of his alleged crimes to bring it up into the present day. For 25 years, the United States accuses Maduro of sitting atop this narco conspiracy that flooded the U.S. with cocaine, that also accused him of colluding with violent and dangerous drug traffickers.
Okay, he's gonna get a lot of pushback from fucking Donald Trump Jr.
The Sinaloa cartel.
Because I love that they're no longer doing fentanyl. Now they're saying it's cocaine.
Similar trip into the clutches of the United States not long ago, and himself was convicted. Now Nicolas Maduro is going to face, as the Attorney General Pam Bondi put it today,
Venezuelans want to know where Maria Machado is. Where's the statement from the so-called Nobel Peace Prize winner who talks about peace when her country, Venezuela, has been attacked by American imperialism?
White House correspondent Selena Wang traveling with the president. Selena, what did President
I will give
Trump
you an
tell
answer
you
to where she
about
is. She is in Oslo, I believe. She escaped the country, so that's where she is.
How does that work? How is that person chosen? What happens?
Maybe she went to Tel Aviv, actually, probably.
So there's two ways this could go, Sarah. He could, of course,
it is
hire
pretty
his
funny that
own
Donald Trump
private
said
lawyer. It needs to be a person who is
that,
licensed to practice
Machado
in federal
is
court
boring
in
and
the Southern District of New
unpopular.
York. However, if he, let's say, gets a lawyer who's not licensed to practice in that district, you can get what's called waived in, meaning you can get permission for that lawyer to come in for purposes of a given case. So certainly Nicolas Maduro, I don't think, is going to have any financial inability to hire a lawyer. So he can choose to hire a lawyer, whoever he would like, whoever's willing to take the case. If for some reason any criminal defendant, I can't imagine how this would be the case with Nicolas Maduro, but if any criminal defendant cannot afford counsel, then one will be appointed for them.
He said she doesn't have the
At times that could be
respect,
federal
which is
public
true.
defender,
And neither did Juan
or other
Guaido.
times there's something called the CJA panel, the Criminal Justice Act panel, which is a panel of experienced New York-based criminal defense lawyers who will take the case at no charge to the individual. So I think it's very likely that Maduro and his wife and the other defendants in this case.
Nicolas Maduro is gonna be judged by a jury of his peers. So 12 heads of different nation states will be shipped out to New York that haven't heard about this case and don't have any biases prior to the case. They will judge him.
On the ground in the United States.
He will have his day in
the dark.
court.
They're flanked by dozens of federal agents on his way to, as the president put it, face justice in the United States. I want to go now back to Jim Shooter. You have been on the phone, working those phones as you always do. What are you learning?
I've been speaking to the Venezuelan opposition about their reaction to this, and I'm told that the opposition leader, Machado, has been in touch with governments across the world following this operation.
Israel.
That includes the government of France, President Emmanuel Macron, but also, and this is crucial, governments in Latin America, Argentina, Ecuador, Panama, Paraguay, who I'm told have shared with the Venezuelan opposition their shared desire in, quote, restoring the will of the people. I think this is important, Sarah, because here is the
low key, it is true. I think Trump just wants to run Venezuela himself. Like, he's doing the same thing that he did with like the Gaza peace plan, where out of nowhere he just added a clause where he would be in charge of the Gaza, the new Gaza Foundation or whatever. And it's like, and everyone was like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Wait, what do you mean you're going to be in charge of it? He's like, nah, let me do it. I'll do it.
He raised some questions about the
He's like, I'm doing so well here in America. I think the people of Venezuela will truly, truly appreciate my wisdom and my experience running a state.
And certainly in the eyes of many countries in the region and around the world, legitimacy to her claims to leadership in any sort of post-Maduro government. But the opposition saying here that they are in touch with governments around the world and getting that kind of support, right, as I said there, for restoring the will of the people in the country of Venezuela. But at this point, remains very much an open question as to what the process will be to decide who leads the country next and where the U.S. will be in that process. Who will it support, right? And does that include the opposition?
Yeah, really great reporting from you. I just want to recap that you...
I'm hearing a lot of like how this process will take place, how process initially was not even barely some criticisms about how process was initially violated and stuff. But I'm not hearing a lot of how fucking insane this is from the supposed liberal mainstream media. Like how objectively insane it is that we can just go in the dead of the night to a totally separate random country, okay, that has done nothing to us, and decide to kidnap its leader. What the fuck? And this, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and MBs, this is how you manufacture consent. This is how you normalize what's going on. You talk about all of the good that this will do. You talk about what the next steps are. You talk about how the Venezuelans are actually totally in love with this move. Okay? And even if there are a shit ton of Venezuelans that are like, nah, actually, this is pretty awesome, that doesn't mean that it's actually going to be awesome, right? How is there not a single person that's even remotely invested in the alternative vision here? The vision that dictates that maybe we should have some rules. Maybe we should be a nation of rules and laws. Maybe we should follow some semblance of international rules and not like normalize this kind of gangster attitude.
Done a great job of commenting on, okay, Maduro's gone. Who's leading Venezuela? And we don't seem to know. And when President Trump says that the U.S. is going to be running Venezuela in the short term and seems to have no idea what that means or
you
how
get
to
mad
achieve
when
that,
we do it to ourselves in
concerning.
America. You get mad when
Because
we
if
do it to others
Venezuela
outside of America.
descends
There's
into
just no
further
pleasing
chaos,
you.
That's not in the U.S. interest, and we don't seem to have a plan to fix that. And what U.S. interest is being advanced here exactly? It doesn't seem to have a lot to do with stopping drugs from coming into the U.S. And again, we don't know what the future is. And the president basically has decided that the U.S. has the right to simply remove another country's president by force when we feel like it. That has enormous implications, certainly for the Western Hemisphere and Trump's vision of us in the U.S. being able to dominate it, but also for Russia and China. You know, what do we say to Putin if he says, well, I'm going to go in and remove Zelensky? So President Trump is taking us in what I think is a very dangerous direction broadly in terms of policy, and then specifically in Venezuela. Where is this going? We don't know, and that could lead to all manner of different dangerous outcomes.
I'm curious to get your response. We just heard from Jim Sciutto with some great reporting. He's talking to the opposition in Venezuela who says, look, we have gotten express support from several other countries, France, Argentina, Panama, Paraguay. But he did not mention the United States in that. What do you make of that?
Yeah, well, again, it goes back to what is Trump's goal here. And I think the easiest way to sum up Trump's goal is he wants the oil. He wants U.S. oil companies to have greater control over Venezuelan oil. Now, there's all manner of problems with that. To begin with, what's the infrastructure like to even get after that? And also, what's the legality of the U.S. asserting that level of control? But he hasn't seemed to give much thought to what comes next. The stated purpose behind this for a lot of people was that Maduro was not legitimately elected. He lost the election to Machado. And she should be the legitimate president of Venezuela. But if that's the case, we've removed Maduro. And now, as I understand it, the vice president, who's no more legitimate than Maduro, has now taken over the presidency. Well, what are we going to do about that? Who should lead Venezuela? And what's the process for getting there? So as I said, there's a lot of very troubling unanswered questions about where this policy goes past the, okay, we snatched Maduro. Great job. But where does that leave us? And what is the policy behind it?
Are you pleased with the way that this was executed? Not obviously, you are not pleased that this happened, but do you give the administration credit for how it happened? No deaths, and the president managed to do what he had planned on doing.
Well, from a technical standpoint, yeah, we've got a great military. They perform tasks incredibly well. They have for decades now. And yes, that is very impressive. But this is what sort of has gotten us into trouble. And remember, this was part of Trump's argument for getting elected president. He was going to stop us stumbling into these conflicts.
Dude, the glaze is out of control. The glaze is out of control. They're like, no, Trump actually did the fucking damn thing.
Saddam Hussein, terrible guy. Muammar Gaddafi, terrible guy. You know, our military did a very effective job of removing both of them from power. It didn't end well. That's the problem. That the military is really good at doing what it is assigned to do, but it's not in the nation building business, as we learned. They can take people out. They can kill people.
Bro, this line is identical to what Nick Fuentes' cope is. It's identical to what I'm hearing from far-right figures as well. They keep saying, oh, it's awesome that we actually fucking kidnapped Nicolas Maduro. But what's this nation-building stuff? I don't know if we should be permanently occupying Venezuela. First of all, you're going to fucking eat the bugs. Okay? Know your position. You're going to eat the bugs, you're going to rent for the rest of your life, and you're going to fucking like it. And just as the liberals on mainstream news is saying like, oh, well, this is a precise military operation and it was fantastic, not exactly certain as to how we're going to be, controlling the country, you're going to say the exact same things that CNN is saying. Just because every now and then you say the N-word with a hard R doesn't change the reality that you are just as much of a fucking liberal and an American chauvinist as these dipshits are. None of these people are actual isolationists. None of these people are actually the dude is on your side. You do not understand. You do not understand my perspective if you think that liberals are on my side on this issue. I do not want intervention in Venezuela. I do not think intervention in Venezuela is appropriate or good at all. Okay? That's the major difference. So no one on fucking CNN, no one that they're going to have on CNN is actually going to be on my side. At most, I'll entertain someone that says this is unconditionally unacceptable. But rarely do you ever hear that this is unconditionally unacceptable. Okay? You don't hear that at all. Bro, what liberals are saying this intervention is good, they are tackling the issue from process. They keep saying that, oh, well, they didn't follow process. They didn't follow process. It's actually a spectacular military operation. They just simply didn't follow process. They should have just told the Democratic Party, for example. Their coverage is justifying this by calling up 20 years of Venezuela being a drug dealer. Exactly. Anytime they bring up any of that fucking faulty justification, any of that bullshit justification, bullshit reasoning, is a opportunity to normalize this shit. Okay? Everyone should be in unison saying this is completely unacceptable. This is completely illegal. It is basically opening up an even worse future for America and everybody, foreign allies and adversaries alike. It's just ridiculous. Like, it's the law of the jungle. It is the law of the jungle. It's might makes right through and fucking through. It's also the same exact shit that Israel was doing that people were frustrated with. Not necessarily just like the violation, not necessarily the violation of the rule of law or whatever, but because everybody gets to do that in war to a certain degree, but also doing it in this like open, arrogant way where you were just saying like, what are you going to do about it? There's nothing you can do about it. When people lose, when people lose confidence in our institutions, okay, they're less likely to rely on them. It's more, things get more unstable. I don't think you guys are good at listening. Sometimes, yeah, the CNN guy is annoying and way too laudatory, but he also did say that this is not okay because this isn't just how things are supposed to be done. How can we criticize Russia when it does stuff like this? This specific CNN guy said exactly that. Okay, maybe I misunderstood and got too fired up because of what he was saying about the military operation being, solid or whatever. The point is that we are destroying what remains of how like civilized society is supposed to operate. Okay. The new order that was designed post World War II was obviously very beneficial for liberal capitalists. It was aggressively pursued to beef up. American interests, Western capitalist interests. It was a sham through and through, but there was still like some semblance of respect for the institutions that were propped up. It's completely gone. It's pure chaos from this point on. Basically, the only stability you can ever have is if you just say America is the God King and they are the leaders and they do whatever the fuck they want. And God forbid one day they get mad at me. I don't think this is going to maintain stability. You're wrong, Hossie. It's always been the rule of the jungle, Iraq, Vietnam, Korea, Latin America. I agree. It's always... I understand that. I understand that might makes right has always been the modus operandi of the American government. My point now is that we are unwinding even like the liberal massaging of narratives in a way that is basically undeniable, where we're basically going out and saying we are the villains, right? There's a difference between doing villain shit and saying we're not the villains and teaching people that doing villain shit is wrong, right? When we come out of the gate swinging and say we are the villains, a lot of you are going to say, well, at least the mask is off. The facade is gone. You can make up your own minds about it. But what you don't realize is that for a lot of people, they hear that and they think, oh, I have a permission now. I can openly say I'm the villain. It's a good thing. That is going to have downstream impact on not only culture, but on societal development, on the way we look at these institutions, other countries. It's devastating. It's the principle behind. It's the difference between someone being like subtle in their racism versus someone openly saying the N-word, right? One might think that openly saying the N-word is, I guess, more favorable than hiding behind language while simultaneously advancing like white supremacist values. But when you're openly saying it, when you're openly saying the slur, you're creating permission structure for other people to also say it. Okay? And you're normalizing the saying of the N-word. That's not good. Because what you guys fail to recognize is this. Well, some of you will go, okay, well, there's no more facade of civility and soft power, right? And therefore, people will actually finally see the truth. What you are failing to realize is, no, this actually normalizes the villainous behavior, okay? Paul Bless says, 5 hours ago, the U.S. created a permission structure to invade any country and arrest any head of state for the crime of being an obstacle to Trump's agenda. Can't emphasize enough how your personal opinion on Maduro should be 1,000 yards away from this conversation right now. Yeah, that's it. That's why I don't even entertain that shit where they're like, what are your thoughts on Maduro? But people are cheering on Maduro. It's like, I don't give a shit what people are cheering on. Okay, I care about my country. I care about international stability. I care about cooperation. I care about human development and advancement. And every single thing that Donald Trump did here goes against that. So no, I don't give a fuck what short-sighted Venezuelans are saying on television right now. I've seen that fucking game played out over and over again in 2003 in Iraq. I've seen it in Libya. I've seen it all around the world. It's not new to me. It doesn't fucking matter. It plays no role in my conversation. It plays no role in my assessment or my analysis.
Information